Orbs are the most common form of UAP there is, and range greatly in size from a couple of millimeters to several meters across, and can be either physical objects such as metallic spheres, or more ethereal objects appearing far more otherworldly. But are they all part of the same phenomenon, or are there multiple forces at work? Join myself and Neil here on Aliens Explored as we go round and round trying to understand this complex subject. And if you would like to help support us in making these episodes, then go to patreon.com/Aliens Explored, and for a mere couple of quid per month, then you can help us to make these and future episodes, and we will love you for it.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a skeptical perspective, whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it? Hello listeners, and welcome back to another episode of your favourite podcast dealing with extraterrestrials, UAPs, UFOs, and all sorts of other strange phenomena and questionable governmental decisions. I'm one of your hosts, Neil Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Stu Jackson. Oh, the listener's favourite podcast. I like that.
Oh, yeah. If they hadn't realised it before, I think they need to be told. So.
Oh, dear me, I like that.
This is your favourite podcast. It's like when I make my wife a cup of tea, I say, here you go, I've made it just the way you like it, in your favourite cup.
Made you your favourite cup of tea.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. How have you been keeping, Neil?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. Been a bit tired of late, been working much harder than I'm used to working.
Well, you had your run, A Soldier's Wife, didn't you?
Had a play run, a week ago now. More than a week ago now.
As we're recording.
So, as we're recording, yes, that was back on the... When was it?
I don't know. Time happens.
8th and 9th of July, that was. 8th and 9th of July. So, that was 4 shows in 2 days. A matinee and an evening show on Saturday, and then on Sunday... Oh no, it wasn't. No, it was 2 evening shows on the Saturday, and then a matinee and an early evening show on the Sunday, and then I went and did a couple of days' work on a Bollywood film, and God, they're slave drivers. they get their money's worth out of you in Bollywood. 2 days straight on that. 2 days, 26 hours. So that kind of takes it out of you a bit.
Yes, but you get fed really well on Bollywood shoots, I find. The food's usually really good.
Yeah, if you like curry.
Oh, yeah.
And I do. I do like curry. It's a part of the staple British diet, isn't it?
That's it. And I've been pretty busy myself as well. I've been doing... it's one of those things. I'm not allowed to talk about it, sadly. But yeah, I've been doing a shoot for a major Netflix series, a second series.
Wow. Which you can't tell us about.
You just can't talk about.
Speculate.
Interestingly, I was supposed to have done more days on it, but because of the SAG-AFTRA strike in America. The lead cast members, although it was shooting here in the UK, the lead cast members are SAG-AFTRA members, and so the whole production has been shut down. Yeah,
as you say, it affects us here in the UK because I think our government gives tax breaks to Hollywood, doesn't it? And so we've got good facilities here. We've got lots of studios, especially Pinewood, which is it is kind of the size of a Hollywood studio. A lot of them, like Elstree and Ealing, are very, very small. But Pinewood is industrial sized. And we have the skill sets, and I understand we come cheap, and there's tax breaks. So yes, lots of Hollywood movies, even things you wouldn't expect, like Captain America and Batman, made, and Marvel was it the Avengers, made here in Britain in large part. So so that strike will affect people here, not because we're members of SAG-AFTRA, but because if they're not working, we don't work. So
that's it.
Yeah.
But,
and of course, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but for the record, I do support the writers' strike and the SAG-AFTRA support of that as well.
I support it too, and so does our union Equity.
Yes,
and they're holding a demonstration in support of 2 demonstrations. I think one in London, one in Manchester, tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow midday. So I think I might pop along and show my support.
Yes, well, I had an email from them about it, but I haven't had a chance to read the email as yet. So, excellent.
Possible that some of our listeners don't support the SAG-AFTRA strike, and will be missing their new Netflix series and movies. But we're actors; we've got to stick together.
Well, it's not that these things won't happen; they'll just get put back. Is all. So it's worth it. It's worth the delays to your favourite shows, in order that the people who write these shows get paid a fair wage. That's my 2 pence worth on it.
Well, and remember, whenever you read of a Hollywood studio head briefing against the strikers, just go and look up how much that studio head earns. It's in the hundreds of millions per year. Yep. So don't let them tell you they can't afford to pay writers and actors a decent wage.
That's it. But that's not what we're here to talk about this week, is it? So a little while ago you emailed me, Neil, about orbs.
Yes, the Orb Phenomenon.
Yeah, and it's high time that we gave this subject. I mean, it's such a broad subject because orbs can mean a lot of different things, can't they?
I think we can agree that they're round, but that the agreement ends.
Well, I'm gonna ever so slightly disagree on that. I'm gonna say they just to
can't agree on anything really,
but they certainly appear round. Now, when we see lights in the sky, we often designate them as orbs, but that's just because they look round. Now, the light itself might not be round, but the way light comes at you, as I understand it, if it's coming from a distance, it's going to look round no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but it's a subject that has gotten a lot more traction recently in ufology, because the Pentagon, our favourite source of information about UFOs at the moment, back in early June, they released some footage.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah. It came through Arrow, a guy called Sean Kirkpatrick. Seen video footage of this spherical. It looked metallic to me. I'm guessing you've seen the video, have you, Neil?
I have, yeah. It just flies in a straight line across what looks like some kind of yard or some kind of car park or something, and then changes direction, doesn't it? And
does.
And flies off a different way.
So this was taken in the Middle East back last year in 2022. It was taken, I can tell you, by an MQ-9 Reaper drone. So military footage. I mean, they don't specify where in the Middle East it was. I don't know if that's because they were looking at things they shouldn't have been looking at, or I'm not entirely sure.
They haven't yet fessed up to flying drones in that region.
Yeah,
a region that thought it was friendly towards the United States, and so
that's it. It's not a very big orb, though.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? I mean, I thought it. It looks like something about the size of a space hopper, maybe bigger than that. But I couldn't tell. It could have been 20 feet across.
Well, you're seeing people in the background of it, and it's flying above them. And in those shots, it is it's barely bigger than a human head. So I'm going to estimate that that's about its size. Is the size of a human head. So maybe it's sort of, what's that? A foot across?
Yeah.
Or, a third of a meter. Something of that nature. It can't be. So looking at the drone footage, it can't have been taken from too far away, because the figures, the people in it they're fairly big. They're not sort of, we're not talking like the size of ants here in the footage. I mean, they could have closed in on it, but either it's much smaller, and the distance between the orb and the people is much greater. God, I'm thinking about trigonometry now and what have you. But either it at most, I would say it's about the size of a human head. This particular one. But what was really interesting about that, when this was released, was the Sean Kirkpatrick says, this is just an example of something we are seeing all over the place, all over the globe. That's a hell of a revelation.
It is, because I mean, if you Google alien orb phenomena, mainly what you come across is accounts of ball lightning.
Yes,
which again is a mysterious phenomenon. No one really knows what it is.
No, but it's it's at least identified as being a weather phenomenon. In the same way that your typical bumblebee, aerodynamically speaking, shouldn't be able to fly, but we know it does. So, and we know that that's natural, and we just accept it. Based
on your experience of trying to glide a dead bumblebee. Pick it up, try and see if it will glide.
For the record, I do not pick up dead bumblebees and start lobbing them about. I mean, I'm terrified of insects anyway, so I wouldn't go near one, dead or alive. But
here's a scientific question, because we can only. It's very difficult for us to make something the shape of a ball fly in that way, in following a certain direction, changing direction. How do you change direction? You need ailerons and fins for that, or some kind of rocket on it that will make it change direction. So basically all we can make fly slowly is a balloon, or we can make something fly very fast, which is something like a cannonball or a bullet. Here's a question: if you fire a cannonball horizontally, obviously it will go some distance, but it's still affected by gravity, isn't it? Does it fall to the ground? Is it affected as much by gravity that it will fall to the ground just as quickly as if you just dropped it, but it's just a question of how far it can travel before it before gravity takes that much effect. It doesn't defy gravity because it's flying, does it? Unless you're firing it upwards. In which case, it's still, all you're giving it is a bit of a head start on gravity.
That's exactly how these things work. For the benefit of any new listeners to the podcast, I hope our regular listeners know this already, but I am not a physicist.
As you probably gathered, neither am I. But what we saw was a ball flying in a way that looked impossible on that video. It was defying gravity.
Yeah.
A bit like an aeroplane does, except we know how an aeroplane does that. It does that with wings or an aircraft, a helicopter with rotating wings. Well, yeah, wings. Wings
Yes.
are the thing that keep it level and stable in the air.
Well, with an aeroplane, the air flowing underneath the wings creates enough upward pressure that it counteracts the effect of gravity.
Yeah.
That's my very layman version of my understanding of how an aeroplane works. But you're absolutely right. If you take a cannonball, and of course cannonball's very, very heavy because it's solid lead. If you were to fire it in a straight line perpendicular to the floor, it wouldn't go very far at all. It wouldn't just drop instantly out of the... But the forward thrust wouldn't be enough to keep it airborne.
Well, it would
long,
go.
Which is
it would go some distance. But what I say is, if you fired a cannon horizontally, and at the same time you were holding a cannonball next to it, and as the cannon fired, you dropped the cannonball, the two balls would hit the ground at the same time. It's just that one will have travelled considerably further laterally. I would love one of our listeners to write in and tell us if we're talking absolute nonsense here. But the gravity is the same whether you're flying fast laterally or not moving at all laterally. Gravity is the same.
well, we know that works in a low gravity environment because there have been those experiments done, haven't there, where you drop something heavy, like a cannonball and a feather at the same time, and they'll both hit the ground at the same time.
In a vacuum, yeah.
In a vacuum, that's what I'm thinking of. Yes, thank you. So bringing this back round to this orb, then it's a sustained flight, isn't it? And as you rightly say, it changes direction as well. There is no propulsion system visible with it whatsoever. You don't necessarily have to have wings or ailerons or fins to change direction, because if you've got what you need is, or what can also do it, is thrust in a different direction. If you get sideways thrust, then you're going to go sideways.
That's how spacecraft change direction, isn't it?
Exactly.
Or
exactly
satellites.
that. Because fins and wings are meaningless in space. It's the lack of a propulsion system that seems to be the real mystery behind this.
I mean, what it looked like, I did send you that video on YouTube where a guy throws a gym exercise ball, inflatable ball, one of these things you sit on and roll around on and get good pelvic exercises. He threw that off a cliff and they filmed it going down, and at one point it looked like it was just an orb flying horizontally, and then it changed direction, I guess, because it hit a different air current, because it was circulating, so the wind would have carried it one way, and then as it fell further, but you couldn't perceive that it was falling. All you could see was the horizontal direction of travel, which then changed. It just sort of stopped and came back the other way. So it looked like that. I mean, I wonder if the effect is created by something like that, by something being dropped from a great height and being carried by air currents.
I can see the potential for that, but again, looking at this video footage that we've seen, it seems to be quite low level. I mean, what you're talking about with that exercise ball, it's dropped off a cliff, a big cliff at that. And you know, it's a large ball, obviously. What's that got to be? 1.5 meters across?
Maybe a metre,
something.
I think. Yeah,
maybe a metre. Obviously, very, very light. They did paint it silver, so it looked like an orb. And you're right. As you get different air current layers, it was changing direction. But this is an object with this orb in this video that is on a. It maintains the same altitude. So a sudden change of direction, unless you get, I suppose you could get a breeze, but it's only a small object as well, so that'd have to be a hell of a breeze. Because the smaller the object, the harder it is to move it with something like wind.
Which is why a beach ball is more susceptible to the wind than, say, a tennis ball.
Absolutely.
Or a golf ball.
Absolutely. So I mean, that's why a golf ball is like really quite aerodynamic, because it's got more mass, but it's small, so it can cut through the air.
Yeah, if you've ever been hit by one, you know it's practically a bullet.
My windscreen of my car got hit by a golf ball once as I was driving past a golf course.
Did it break the windscreen?
It cracked it. It didn't break it, but it did crack it. Now, any theories as to what these things might be then, Neil?
On seeing something like that, what we saw in the video, all I've got really is it's something that was falling, that just appeared to be carried. And maybe because it was quite light, that it was, say, a ball filled with air, it wasn't falling very fast. So it wouldn't be obviously getting smaller and smaller and smaller like Wile E. Coyote once he's run off the edge of a cliff. That it'd be going down slower, so it would retain its apparent size, and it wouldn't seem to be falling for that short clip of video. But and maybe
it was
the wind
moving at a fair old rate, though.
Yeah,
it was shifting.
Yeah.
How confident do you feel about that?
I mean, I also know from having done parachute jumps in the army that the wind can be much stronger as you reach altitude. That we'd be stood around the airfield saying, "Well, it feels a really calm day. Are we going to jump today?" And they'd say that this was sport parachuting with it. There are very strict rules about it. They're a lot more casual about military jumps with paratroopers, which I wasn't. They would say, but no, up at 3,000 feet, actually there's very strong winds, and it's not safe to drop. But you weren't perceiving any of it on the ground, so there are air currents.
At the size.
That's all I've got. That's all I've got to put forward as a prosaic explanation for what we saw. That it's an object that's lighter than it looks, and it's actually falling, but imperceptibly.
Looking at the size of the people in the video, though, I can't see it being that much of an altitude. It strikes me as being pretty low to the ground. But if I told you that there's a chap, namesake of mine but no relation, called Patrick Jackson, who believes he has come up with a working theory. He's for these orbs. He believes, now he's also not a physicist that I'm aware of. Apologies, Mr. Jackson, if you are a physicist, and I'm saying you're not. But he's an IT database specialist.
Okay.
But what he has been doing is, for quite a few years now, he started by looking at the phenomenon of poltergeist activity.
Okay.
Of all things.
Okay.
And he realised that orbs were coming into this quite frequently into this phenomenon. He has theorized that these orbs emit certain radiations that cause poltergeist activity, as well as feelings of being very unsettled in human beings, even to the point of feeling physically sick. He believes it's a global defense system, that there are billions, presumably, of these orbs about. There are 3 different types. They protect the planet from meteors, from UAPs, from who knows what kind of things. They keep people away from certain areas of danger by making them feel sick through this radiation, by making a place seem haunted, by making people very, very unsettled. It's a really interesting. He's written quite a lot about it.
It's a disturbance in the ether, really, that creates, that unsettles you, makes you feel ill, that makes you just
radiation, radioactive, a radioactive reaction.
Okay, but I mean, I imagine if I went somewhere and I started to feel ill, I wouldn't immediately assume it was because of where I was. I'd presume it was because of something I'd eaten or whatever. I wouldn't think, the way to stop feeling bad is to go somewhere else.
No, but I mean, he's using that as just one example of like an extreme reaction. He's more suggesting like people being unsettled.
Yeah, I mean, I think what would make me feel unsettled is if there is an apparent visible danger nearby, that I can see that I'm entering a sucking swamp or a crumbling cliff top or something.
Have you never been to a haunted house or a haunted area and felt unsettled as a result?
No, that's got to go on our list, hasn't it? We've got to do a paranormal investigation somewhere.
Okay, so when I had my experience, our regular listeners will know what I'm talking about there, but there was that evening when I got this overwhelming sense that there was a presence in my flat, and it felt like an extraterrestrial presence, and all of that. So that must have been completely unrelatable for you to hear.
No, I mean, I've had scares before. Something suddenly happens, that a picture falls off the wall, or whatever, that kind of thing. Something happens that seems to be caused by a breeze, but you don't feel a breeze. We talked also about something I'm very susceptible to, that the different cells that your eyes use, whether you're viewing in daytime, is it rods and cones? That in daylight you perceive things mainly by their colour, and at night time you perceive them mainly by their shape, and that's why at dusk time, when the light is fading, and I guess there's a transition period where at one point you're using both sets of cells partially, that's when I see witches in the trees. That's when I see all sorts of odd things merging and shadows turning into things, and I mean, I know what it is now, but I used to get a few scares when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all been there, and of course that psychological predilection to see faces in things.
Yes,
for example, the anthropomorphizing thing. But to go back, so just to something you said just there, then, when you say a picture suddenly falls off the wall and it gives you a scare. But there are also times when a picture might fall off a wall and it might make you jump, but you don't feel unsettled by it. And this, as is my understanding, is what Patrick Jackson is talking about, is these orbs can affect something like a picture falling off using their radiation. I don't know how that works, but somehow what he describes as poltergeist activity combined with that feeling of being unsettled, that's where he would suggest that is orb activity. He's also, in studying orbs, he's noticed that they tend to maneuver in threes, and while some are indeed silver, some are translucent, some are white. So where we see a triangular shape or triangular lights, that is 3 orbs, and the target or the focus of their attention, if you like, is going to be directly below the centre of that triangle.
Okay.
It's really, really interesting, and I recommend, well, not only yourself, Neil, but all our listeners, do look up and Google Patrick Jackson orb theory and have a look at this. He lives, well, not that far from us in Cambridge. He's an Irishman, but yeah, he lives in Cambridge, as I understand, so which isn't too far from us. I'm going to see if I can get hold of him and get him on the show for an interview.
That would be great. I do like it when we have I do like having a guest on the show.
Absolutely, it's been far too long since we last had a guest. So watch this space. But that would be really curious. Hey, he's also suggested that these things are definitely not man-made because they've been around for thousands of years. So who made them? Who put them there? Really fascinating subject.
Yeah, something else we don't know about. You know, we have the evidence of our 5 senses. We have what we call a 6th sense, which is probably a subtle combination of the other 5. Yeah, you sense someone behind you because you feel the change in air pressure or hear something that you don't.
That's the theory.
That's the theory. Is this 6th sense, or is is it something else? And are there things around us that are beyond our senses?
See, I'm going to say that feeling when you know you're being watched, that isn't necessarily changes in air pressure because the person doing the watching can be some distance away. Or how often we still get that feeling?
Yeah, how often have you found yourself on a train or a bus and you just sort of look at someone and they're reading a book or whatever, and then suddenly they just look up and look straight at you? Or that you're reading a book and you look up and someone's looking straight at you. And is that because you sense something, or is it that actually, as mammals who weren't always top of the food chain, we do look around more than we realise?
I'm going to be my own debunker and naysayer here, as a siren goes off outside my window. And say that, I think we are constantly sort of looking around. Even if we're reading a book on a train or something like that, we look around a lot. Perhaps almost unconsciously, perhaps just for a fleeting moment. And the chances of 2 people making eye contact as they're both looking around is pretty high, I would say.
Gives you that guilty feeling, doesn't it? If you're admiring someone and suddenly they look up and look straight at you, like, what you're doing. And signs up on the London Underground saying that staring at people is actually an offence.
Leering, I think, is
it does say staring at you. Don't stare at people.
I've not seen those signs. On
staring at someone in a I've forgotten what the adverb they use. They don't say lascivious or anything like that, but it can be seen as threatening.
Well, it can, absolutely. To be stared at, you're definitely the focus of somebody's attention. If it's somebody you don't know, it can be very unsettling. And so don't do it. Don't do it, listeners. But I'll tell you what you should do, listeners, is write in and let us know what you think about Orbs. You can contact us via the usual means. You can email us, aliensexplored@gmail.com. You can contact us through Facebook, through Twitter, by searching Aliens Explored. You can contact us by commenting on one of our YouTube videos. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that. Hit that notification icon so that you don't miss any there. We'll appreciate you for that. And of course, if you are one of our Patreon subscribers, and then you get exclusive access to our Discord server as well. So all the different ways you can contact us there. But yes, we'll try and get hold of Patrick Jackson, no relation, as soon as we can. But in the meantime, next week we've got our 3-year anniversary special, Neil.
Yay.
We'll be doing a retrospective look back at all the subjects we've talked about over the last year. 3 years, Neil.
3 years, wow.
It's a long time.
It is a very long... No, it's flown by, really, isn't it?
It has in some ways.
Yeah.
In others, less so.
Yeah.
Depends on your perspective. But yes, we'll be definitely looking forward to that. In the meantime, keep watching out for any light orbs, metallic orbs, ethereal orbs, or any kind of orbs.
Any kind of orbs. We'll take it.
Absolutely. And of course, keep watching the skies. Take care for now.
Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aliens Explored is a Fecal Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter or Facebook by searching Aliens Explored, or visit us on aliensexplored.com.